I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I bear witness that there is but one God. We thank Almighty God, Allah, for giving to us the Prophet Abraham and the monotheistic principle, for Moses and the Old Testament or the Torah, for Jesus the Messiah and the New Testament or the Injil, and for the Prophet Muhammad and the Holy Quran and his Sunnah. Peace be upon all of these worthy servants of Almighty God, Allah. But as a black man in the Western Hemisphere, I cannot be thankful enough to Almighty God, Allah, for raising up the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and reintroducing us to the faith of Islam in the West. And we thank Allah also for giving to us today a divine leader, teacher, and guide, the leader of the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in the great names of all of the worthy servants of Almighty God, Allah, I'd like to greet you, beloved brothers and sisters, in the greeting words of peace in the Arabic language of Assalamu Alaikum. And please give Brother Edwin and Brother Raymond a warm hand for their introductions. And it is, of course, once again, a privilege for me to have the opportunity to share some thoughts with you today. And I express great gratitude to my dear friend and brother, Minister Abdul-Hakeem Muhammad. I want to speak today very straightforwardly on the earth being in a state of crisis. Yes, sir. Because it's time again, but in particular now, maybe more so than ever before, that we focus our attention on how global events and episodes and circumstances are affecting us specifically as a community. And I wish to draw from part 13 of The Time and What Must Be Done, delivered by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan throughout the year of 2013, where he looked at a particular subject matter that is of extraordinary importance to us. And that was the subject of America's foreign policy. Because we are in the United Kingdom, we are the children of parents and grandparents who are mainly both from the continent of Africa and the Caribbean. Yes, those of us from the Caribbean, most of us are of Jamaican heritage, but also Trinidad, Guyana, Barbados, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Antigua, Dominica, and St. Kitts, and the Bahamas. And most of us from Africa have parents and grandparents, particularly from Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and Uganda. But now, within the generations that followed us, we have more persons of African origin in the United Kingdom who are from even French-speaking territories. And also, as was not so much the case in the 1980s and the 1990s, we have a larger community of people of African descent from the Sudan, from Eritrea, and Ethiopia. We also have a lot of our people from South Africa, and even other territories in the Caribbean. So London is like a microcosm of the entire planet, where almost every single black community has been combined and blended, where you have all of these different nationalities represented. Now, we cannot afford to become so distant from our heritage or the understanding of our parents' and grandparents' national heritages that we become so detached from them that we don't see it as a priority to still be part of those communities. Countries all over the world right now are introducing what is being referred to as grandparent laws, where nationality at one time was considered dual if you have the option to be a citizen of 2 different countries. But now in the world today, you can actually have nationality in as much as 6 countries. Because we all have 2 parents, which means we all have at least 4 grandparents. And it's possible that your mother, your father, your paternal grandparents, and your maternal grandparents can all be from 6 different countries. And it's also possible that you could be born in a 7th country. And laws are being passed now, which was not so over the last 50 years, that citizenship can be applied for in the countries of our grandparents' birth. And even if our grandparents were not born in those countries, if they were naturalized citizens, or even if they were citizens by parentage, then that citizenship status still applies to you. So clearly it's not good enough for us to be sitting locked in London and not have our minds roaming and exploring the African diaspora in a way to reconnect. Because all other peoples on the international scale, geopolitically speaking, are strong and powerful because they are connected and united. And even though many of them never even seen each other before, they are networked. And they're networked through economics, heritage, history, and ideology, meaning that this heritage network that they have established has also an ideological foundation that is being taught to the children. So even if, hypothetically speaking, their children are born in an 8th or 9th country, they still have a foundational knowledge of the heritage of their ancestors. And they see themselves as part of it, not just something to read in our pastime for fun or leisure to learn about Africa, but to properly reconnect. And this is why all of the Jewish people on planet Earth potentially have the right to dual citizenship between whatever country they're in and also the state of Israel. But where does this leave us? Because we are the most geographically dispersed people in the world. Us and white people. The 2 most geographically dispersed people on planet Earth. Because almost everywhere you go, you see a black person. Or evidence that a black person was there. And also everywhere that you go, you see white people. But there's a significant difference in the origin of their presence. Many times, the black people were human trafficked there. We were forced there against our will. And most times, the white people invaded there. Against the will of the indigenous peoples who they found there, whom they killed. And now here we have centuries, decades, and generations later, immigrants from foreign countries are coming back in. They're not coming to visit the white people here. All the people coming in on the boats, all the immigrants, all those who are crossing the ocean, all those who are risking their lives to come across the United Kingdom. Why do you think they're coming? They're not coming to visit white people.
Go ahead.
They're coming to take back the wealth that was stolen from them.
Go ahead.
Because Britain in particular as an empire colonized all these countries all over the world as far away as Australia. Australia is the furthest possible place from the United Kingdom.
Right.
Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, all over Africa, the Caribbean, all over the Caribbean region, Belize, Honduras, North America, Canada, everywhere on planet Earth. Either the Europeans in general or Great Britain in particular have went over there and stole land and stole wealth, brought it back to the United Kingdom, left those places that they stole the wealth from impoverished. Now I want to become re-empowered. I'm going to go back and take the wealth that you stole.
Yes, sir.
You can't break into my house and burgle me. And then I'm seeing you enjoying the wealth that you took from me. And what am I supposed to do? Just sit down and look at you through the window, enjoying the luxuries that you took from me when I had nothing? No. It's like this very funny clip that I saw on the social media. It was so funny. I looked at it about 7 times. About two black men, they're cleaning a plane, right, after all the passengers left. And a white man comes in and he says, excuse me, I left my briefcase, right? Did any of you see it? And the black men, they're cleaning, they're vacuuming and so on. Say, no, I didn't see a briefcase. You saw a briefcase? No, I didn't see a briefcase. And then the white man says, wait a minute, but that's my hat that you have on. Say, no, say, this is my hat. My girlfriend bought me this hat. What are you talking about? They looked at him and said, but that's my jacket. Your jacket? What, you trying to say I'm a thief? No, this is not your jacket, this is my jacket. And then he has a laptop. Say, that's my laptop. Say, no, my girlfriend bought me this laptop. No, sir. And then there was like I think it was a wristband or some piece of jewelry with his name on it, Jonathan. He said, but I'm Jonathan. That's my wristband you have on. That's my jewelry. He said, no, my name is Jonathan. You can't be telling me. And then so he turns around. He's continuing cleaning. And then his friend says, yeah, Jonathan, remember? And he's ignoring him. He's saying, Jonathan, hey, Jonathan. So yeah, that's me. That's me. I'm Jonathan. And this white man is looking at them, nicking all of his stuff. And they just deny it. They say, no, I'm Jonathan. No, this is mine. This is my jacket. This is my hat. This is my laptop. Obviously, he's going to be infuriated. But that white man was like us. And all the wealth that was taken away. And so immigrants are coming back. There's not one immigrant that has come to the shores of the United Kingdom that came from a country that England did not rob and steal from. And now you're complaining about them coming back. Oh, but over in America, they created a rival empire to Great Britain. And it's ironic that they're so close. We saw President Donald Trump visit the UK last week. Whole other story for another time. But America's foreign policy has been on the table. It is announced, it has been announced that today, this day, September 21st, 2025, that the United Kingdom will officially recognize Palestine as a state. It was said back in July that they would do so if the genocide does not stop, even though they didn't use the term genocide. And that day has come, and it's expected that the announcement will take place after so much pressure. But with all the pomp and ceremony of the visit of the President of the United States to the United Kingdom last week, he, on returning to America, stated his disapproval of Palestine being recognized as a state. Now, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in The Time and What Must Be Done, Part 13, he said, to America and the nations of the earth, now it is time for us to review your record. Okay. He said, I want to recite to you your record. Because while the record is clear on the suffering of black and brown people and the Native Americans and oppressed people in this nation, one of the things that the American people are not aware of is its foreign policy. That's right. Many people in America don't even have passports because it's not seen as a need to explore beyond the parameters of their shores. Allah in the Holy Quran refers to the Day of Judgment as a day when a book with your record will be handed to you. And it will either be handed to you in your right hand or your left hand, which is symbolic to the balance of justice that you are found under. Here, the record of America is being reviewed. The minister continues, did you know that since the inception of America, there are presidential records that record the doings of every president? Some of it is secret and some of it is open, but everything is recorded. When the Congress was set up, everything that they said and did, every law that was made, every amendment to the Constitution that was drafted, all of it is in a record. Whether they are the doings of the Supreme Court, the doings of each committee that is a part of government, above all, each department of government has its own record. Now, back in the late 1700s, the fifth president of the United States, President James Monroe, established a principle called the Monroe Doctrine. And the Monroe Doctrine, established in 1783 on December the 5th, became American policy. And from that, more than 200 years ago, every single president of the United States from that time to now has respected this particular policy. The policy of the Monroe Doctrine was that they would declare themselves as the world's policeman in the Western Hemisphere and take charge and control of all geopolitical affairs without any outside interference except among already existing colonies, which included most of the Caribbean nations at the time, but since then, the majority have been released. The Monroe Doctrine is enacted right now, where up to 3 ships from Venezuela, right off the coast of Trinidad, have been bombed by the American government, who have simply stated there was drugs on the boats.
That's right.
Now look at it and think of how easily it is to dismiss murder.
That's right.
Like Israel in Palestine. You fire a missile into a children's hospital, kill 400 babies, and all you have to say is a terrorist was hiding in the building. You drop a bomb on a residential complex, kill 600 or 700 people, innocent lives, and all you have to say is that there was a terrorist hiding in the building. You kill a whole set, hundreds of people in a public place, and you just dismiss it by saying, we got the terrorist who was hiding among them. And we're being programmed to accept all of this.
Go ahead, brother.
And on a much smaller scale, of course, with Venezuela, you're seeing the same kind of pattern.
That's right.
Now, this Monroe Doctrine has continued consistently. It started off, first time it was enacted was when gold was discovered on the border of Venezuela and Guyana. The Monroe Doctrine was implemented. They took control. Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. Cuba, which is a communist state, which appears to be anti-American as far as political ideology is concerned, still has American bases in there. And a lot of other Caribbean nations have American embassies that have become militarized, where the land and territory has literally been taken from the country that owns the territory. So it's a kind of military encroachment for which the populations are programmed to accept. Get it? The minister continues in the time and what must be done, part 13. By and large, if the people knew better, most of them would do better. But at the top of it, you have a satanic, demonic mind that is the architect of America's foreign policy. And this foreign policy has national interests and objectives. But the American people do not know necessarily what these interests are, and they don't necessarily know what the foreign policy objective of their government is toward nations and people of the earth. They are not aware. They just vote in general elections based on their ideas of what would be done within the borders of America. But the amount of death, the amount of genocide, the amount of interference in the affairs of other nations goes so far and wide. Going back to all these policies, everything is on record. National Security Council Memorandum number 46, dated March 17th, 1978, drafted by Zbigniew Brzezinski, National Security Advisor to President Jimmy Carter. It spoke about ensuring that the black community in America does not become sympathetic towards the Palestinian cause.
Listen.
And that the black and Arab unity must always remain fragmented because it poses a threat to economic interests. And here they are now, concerned about all these marches here in London in support of Palestine.
Yes.
Close to 100,000 people at one time per week on average.
Yes,
but if there's the unity of African people who have suffered another series of atrocities under the auspices of European governments, if they now unite with the Palestinians by cause and interest, it poses danger. So they must keep us separate. So right now, right alongside Palestine, one of the biggest humanitarian crises ever to take place within the last 50 years or so is happening in the Congo.
Listen.
The Congo has a population of almost 110 million people. The Congo has a huge GDP, massive resources, but close to 1 million people displaced, moved from their homes, people being killed arbitrarily. And when you look at the root of what's happening in the Congo, it starts going back to the late 1800s, early 1900s, where one man, King Leopold II of Belgium, killed more Africans in the Congo than Hitler killed Jews. But our children are programmed to go through the educational system referring to Hitler as the most evil man who ever lived.
That's right. Go ahead.
There's some brainwashing going on right there.
That's right.
Because King Leopold II had a policy when the automobile industry was just expanding and there was rubber in the Congo, little children used to be employed to collect rubber. And he will cut off the hands of those black children who did not collect enough rubber. But where do you think he got that idea from?
Go ahead.
Going right back to Christopher Columbus, who in Santo Domingo would cut off the hands of the workers who did not collect enough gold dust. And you had these 4 voyages of Columbus. On his first voyage from 1492, Columbus wrote in his diaries when he met the indigenous peoples, he says, I think we can make these people into Christians. That was their objective. We are going to Christianize them. Second voyage was started on September 24th, 1493. They went in this time. It was not just the initial 3 ships, but they took in persons to establish settlements. That's when the genocide began, the torture, the killing. Third voyage, where he allegedly discovered Trinidad in 1498. And they had Discovery Day, which was July 31st, but which was celebrated for the last time, July 31st, 1984, which was replaced with Emancipation Day, August 1st, 1985, when Trinidad and Tobago became the first country in the world to declare Emancipation Day as a public holiday. But on these first 3 voyages, the second and the third voyage in particular, Catholic priest Bartholomew de las Casas wrote in his diary the records, as the minister said, all of their deeds, all of their actions is on record. They would test the sharpness of their swords by cutting off the heads of children. They will have a game trying to throw a spear through the body of an Amerindian child. They will beat them, rape them, humiliate them, torture them. And there's still Caribbean countries who are still debating over whether or not they should take down a statue of Christopher Columbus. And they just took down the statue of Christopher Columbus in Trinidad in Port of Spain. But they had to debate it first. But all of this is in our records. We don't read the records. And then the fourth voyage, Columbus was actually imprisoned. He was captured, placed in chains as a prisoner, taken back to Spain, in jail. And then they let him back out, where he spent a year in Jamaica, where he convinced the people that he was a magician and that he was moving stars. And then they helped him fix his boat. And then he left. But look at their record. It's written in blood. So we have to start thinking about deepening the levels of our own unity. So it was 4 years ago, September the 7th, 2021, where there was the first ever Africa CARICOM Summit. It was during the COVID pandemic, so it was online, virtual. And for the first time ever, heads of governments of African countries met with heads of governments of Caribbean countries in conference. The second conference just took place. It was on September the 7th, this year, 2025, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where in person, for the first time ever in our history, leaders of governments of Africa met in person with leaders of governments of the Caribbean. Again, discussing unity, dual citizenship, partnership in business and trade, recognition and acknowledgement of each other's documented status as citizens, and in particular the cultural exchange of the peoples. We cannot afford to first consult with our former oppressors to get approval and permission as to whether or not we could become friends with our own family. Friends and family are supposed to be synonymous with each other. But we are applying for permission from our enemies. I was with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in 2001 in Chicago. I accompanied him to the airport in Chicago, July 2001, when he went to the ratification of the African Union. And now here we are, almost 3 decades later, the African Union is combining with the Caribbean region, which is being recognized as the 6th region of Africa: North, South, West, East, Central, and the Caribbean or the diaspora. This after just 10 years prior, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan moved throughout each of these Caribbean nations, meeting with all these heads of government, preaching an idea of a federated Caribbean. We shouldn't be thinking about separating and breaking apart. We must be thinking about coming together. So, coming back to the time and what must be done, part 13, the minister detailed from 1945 onwards, after World War II, America's political interference in providing military support, financial assistance, and training to rebel governments to overthrow or disrupt their democratically elected regimes, including in Greece, West Germany, Italy, Ukraine, Albania, Hungary, Portugal, Australia, Burma, and Indonesia. That was the first section. But let's look over to the Caribbean region and Latin America in particular. Because in Latin America, you have so much political interference taking place that has created so much disruption. And the language that has been used to describe Venezuela has been, and the government of the United States of America has openly referred to the president of Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro, as a drug trafficker.
Yes. Imagine that.
They said he's a narco trafficker. A president of America saying that about another president? And you say that to a semi-literate population, in their minds, because the only drug trafficker they know, the only drug dealer or drug seller that we're trained to know about is the one who's standing on the corner selling drugs. Not the one who has control of customs, shipping, transatlantic operations, imports, exports. We're not thinking of drug trafficking on that level. We're thinking of the man, the pants low down on the waist, heavy jacket, cap twisted to the side. And they probably trying to envision President Maduro like that. So that's all they have to say. Oh, he's a drug trafficker. That means you can drop bombs on his ships.
Yes, sir.
And it's sanitized. And now they're referring to Venezuela as a narco state. Well, you on your own do your research on the magnitude of Venezuela's oil deposits. And Venezuela is right up there above Saudi Arabia with oil deposits. And you'll find a glaring coincidence in world history that for some reason, all of these countries where there are massive deposits of oil or potential energy, they happen to have leaders who are dictators in America's eyes.
That's right. Think about it.
Now, this idea of, as they're referring to Venezuela now, as a narco state, and the whole Caribbean is right there caught in the middle. Key characteristics of a narco state are institutional corruption. Drug cartels and trafficking organizations have a strong grip on government institutions, including the judiciary, police, military, and political offices through bribery, force, or blackmail. This allows them to operate with impunity and undermine the rule of law. Economic dependence. The illegal drug trade becomes a significant and, in some cases, the primary source of a country's revenue and foreign currency. The economy becomes reliant on the illicit market, making it difficult to dismantle without causing widespread economic collapse. High levels of violence, including murders, kidnappings, and turf wars, are often a hallmark of a narco state. This violence is not only a result of competition between rival criminal groups, but also a tool used to intimidate and control the population and state actors. In many cases, drug cartels become a de facto governing force in certain regions, providing jobs and social services while maintaining control through fear and violence. Now, these characteristics, which are being used to describe a country that is being called a narco state, are actually characteristics that we have become accustomed to in communities. Look at it. So countries that are not narco states have communities in them where there are features of narco trafficking empires and many kinds of kingdoms in these separate geographically spaced communities. For example, high levels of violence. Have we heard about that in our communities? But the country is not defined that way. But the community in the country is.
Yes, sir.
Murders, kidnappings, and turf wars. Have we heard about that in our community?
Yes, sir.
Yes. But the country is not defined that way, but the community is. And this is as a result of competition between rival criminal groups. Has there been gang conflict in our communities?
Yes, sir.
Bloods versus the Crips, Vice Lords versus the Elricans, Gaza versus the Gully, Brownstone Projects versus Van Dyke Projects in Brooklyn. So wait a minute. No one has called America a narco state.
That's right.
But you have all of these communities that have like a microcosm of a macrocosm of what a narco state is, but in geographically restricted areas because of the narcotics that got into the communities. And the question is, how did those narcotics get in the communities? From the same people who are not being described as narco traffickers, but they circulate guns and drugs within the black community where there's high unemployment and low minimum wage and a lack of opportunity for the youth. And then guns and drugs are available. We take them up, take on the characteristics of the demonic satanic plan that had a vision for the black community becoming that way. And then we are the ones who are defined as a narcotics or drug trafficking community with gangs and violence. But who made it that way? Now they're looking at whole countries like that, countries that they introduced the narcotic into.
That's right.
To claim that someone is trafficking drugs is a very serious charge. But a country? I have never heard Ronald Reagan be referred to as a drug trafficker.
No.
I have never heard George Bush be referred to as a drug trafficker.
Come on, go ahead.
I've never heard Bill Clinton be referred to as a drug trafficker, though he said he smoked something. He didn't inhale or something. He didn't inhale, right? Okay.
Yes, sir. So he's
And I've never heard Richard Nixon be referred to as a drug trafficker. But look at what some of the operations of the countries were. And I'm extracting specific episodes from the time and what must be done here as it pertains to drugs.
Yes, sir.
Not just political interference. That's one thing. As a matter of fact, that's almost an infinite chapter. Drugs, illegal narcotics. Starting with Vietnam.
That's right.
The so-called secret war in Laos, 1960s and 1970s. During the Vietnam War, the CIA, which is an investigations and intelligence and security department of the government of the United States of America, the CIA ran a covert operation in Laos to support anti-communist forces. They do that all over the world. They're against communism, they're pro-capitalism, especially when American industries can go up and get capitalist gain and profit from poor people in other countries. So if there's a communist regime that is promoting a socialist ideology, they will give money, funding, military assistance, and weapons to whoever is against them. Vietnam, primarily among the Hmong people, there were forces that were heavily involved in the opium trade in the so-called Golden Triangle. Analyst Alfred McCoy pointed out that the CIA was complicit in this cocaine trade in the so-called Golden Triangle, providing air transport for the opium and heroin of their allies in exchange for their cooperation. The CIA, the American government, did not deny this. Their argument was that while the CIA itself was not directly trafficking drugs, it knowingly used and protected the groups that did. In other words, they're saying it wasn't us. Now, put that in a street context. I mean, if you're a police officer shutting down a drug block and you catch someone selling some rocks on the corner, and he has like 4 or 5 rocks in his pocket, your main concern should be, where did you get it from? Here you have a cocaine trade where the rebels who were against the Vietnamese regime, who was actually inspired by the great Marcus Messiah Garvey in the early 1900s in America. Ho Chi Minh befriended Marcus Garvey. And when Kwame Ture went to visit Ho Chi Minh in the 1980s, decades later, Ho Chi Minh told Kwame Ture that the best way for your struggle to be successful is if you follow the philosophy of my friend, Marcus Garvey. And to this day, Ho Chi Minh of Vietnam remains the only leader of any country that defeated America in a war. But here, the government of America used cocaine trafficking to empower the opponents of Ho Chi Minh. And they're just saying, well, it wasn't me. We didn't. So you catch the drug seller on the corner. You say, okay, where did you get it from? And then, they get the facts out of him. They punish him. They torture him. They waterboard him. Tell us who. Tell us who. And then he ends up selling out who it was he got the drugs from. Imagine the police doing a raid on who he got the drugs from, kick down the door, enter, all right, we're here to see some. You're under arrest. For what? You have been supplying all the drug dealers on the block with cocaine. And he has a warehouse full. And he just defends himself saying, I didn't sell no cocaine. I might have some here. I didn't sell nobody. And he has a high-profile lawyer backed up, ready, and he has a record of getting off scotch-free. And they just dismiss it. So the CIA didn't say that we weren't involved in cocaine. We didn't sell no cocaine to nobody. And that's it. Probably the worst of them all, the Contra cocaine scandal. There used to be a television show on Fox News hosted by Oliver North. Oliver North was an American military general who, you see, there's so much capitalism and commercialism that he actually made money of talking about how the American government sold drugs in Nicaragua. It was on TV. One of the most well-known and highly publicized cases during the Ronald Reagan administration, the CIA provided support to the Contra rebels fighting the Sandinista government in Nicaragua. They used cocaine to raise money, and this wasn't just cocaine being used in Nicaragua. This was cocaine that got into the streets of black communities in Los Angeles. In a series of articles, first published in 1996 by journalist Gary Webb, titled Dark Alliance, it highlighted the drug ring with ties to the Contras who sold large amounts of cocaine to Los Angeles street gangs, contributing to another crisis at the time, the crack cocaine epidemic in Los Angeles. And the profits were funneled to the Contras with the knowledge of the CIA. So they're selling drugs to black people in ghetto communities in America to raise money for the Contras who were going up against the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. So couldn't you just give them the cash? You had to sell drugs in black communities, destroy lives, and then send that money to Nicaragua. And then again, take a hands-off position. Webb's series prompted several government investigations, including one by the CIA's own Inspector General. The reports concluded, this is the CIA, that there was no evidence of a conspiracy by CIA officials to bring drugs into the United States. However, the CIA Inspector General's report did find that the agency had at least been aware of Contra involvement in drug trafficking, which they supported and had in some cases failed to investigate or report it to law enforcement agencies like the DEA. But that wasn't enough. The United States government Senate Kerry Committee in 1989 also found, quote, "It is clear that individuals who provided support for the Contras were involved in drug trafficking. This suggests a pattern of complicity or hypocritical ignorance. They pushed cocaine with the confidence that they will never be linked to it. Let's go across to the other side of the hemisphere for a little while, to Afghanistan.
That's right.
Afghanistan had up to one point produced 80% of the world's heroin. We all of a sudden started to mysteriously hear about these dreadful people called the Taliban.
That's right.
And it just so happened that the country Afghanistan, who apparently had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11, September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks on New York and America, on the Twin Towers, Afghanistan, who had absolutely nothing to do with it, became a bombing target. And there were so many military campaigns against Afghanistan, which coincided with this Taliban banning the production of opium. America steps in, removes the Taliban from power, reinstalls the so-called Northern Alliance, and then the Northern Alliance start back the production of opium, which was almost $1 trillion industry. Trillion, 700 billion industry per year. And you know that number, 700 billion. I heard a statistic yesterday, which I intend to verify. Think about this, 700 billion pounds. Think. I heard a statistic yesterday that said Elon Musk has 700 billion pounds. Elon Musk has that, 700 billion pounds. I heard this yesterday on a report, which I intend to verify. Okay, no one here is surprised, right? But here's the surprising part. This statistic said that Elon Musk made 700 billion pounds yesterday. One day. He would have already had about that before. Yesterday, as in Friday. Have to check that one out. Afghanistan in the 1980s, similar to the Laos case, there have been allegations that the CIA's support for the Mujahideen resistance fighters against the Soviet invasion contributed to a massive increase in opium production and heroin trafficking in the region. The argument is that the CIA's focus on fighting the Soviets led it to work with and support individuals who were also major drug traffickers. There is significant evidence from declassified documents, congressional reports, and journalistic investigations that the CIA has, at various times, worked with and protected individuals and groups that were heavily involved in the drug trade as part of its covert operations. The central distinction often made is between culpability and indirect complicity, but they have always been denied. Now, let's get back into Latin America. America has engaged in the protection of United States economic interests, the enforcement of the Monroe Doctrine, and particularly during the Cold War, the containment of communism. One of the best examples of this interference is Guatemala. Guatemala in 1954 had a very progressive president by the name of President Jacobo Arbenz. Recently in lectures, I've been asking the audience to do some homework on this, as I like to give homework as a teacher. The United Fruit Company. Just look up that during the week. The United Fruit Company of Guatemala. This was an American corporation that were involved in processing of fruits, fresh and natural, processed. And President Jacobo Arbenz was concerned about the exploitation of his workers because the United Fruit Company became a massive economic empire that supported American capitalism. But all of the workers at the United Fruit Company in Guatemala were poor, working for minimum wage, and they stayed poor. President Arbenz spoke about nationalizing all of the agricultural industries so that foreigners don't come into the country, make all the money from their natural resources, take it back to America, and leave the people poor.
Go ahead.
America then supported a coup against President Jacobo Arbenz, which installed a military dictatorship which led to decades of civil war and instability. Decades. Guatemala has had one of the highest murder rates in the world since. That criminal gang that President Trump is always talking about, what are they called? MS-13. Where are they from? El Salvador and Guatemala. And we're going to come to El Salvador in a bit. MS-13. And they're talking about rounding up anyone involved in MS-13 in America and deporting them. All these pictures, all these images that they're sending all over. But Guatemala didn't have to be so unstable.
Okay.
You go into the country, you steal their wealth, you take it back to America. Now the people are going back to America to benefit from their capital product. In Chile, 1973, the government of President Richard Nixon actively worked to destabilize the socialist government of President Salvador Allende. Following a military coup led by General Augusto Pinochet, Salvador Allende was overthrown, and Pinochet's brutal dictatorship, which killed and tortured thousands of political opponents, was supported by the United States government for many years. Augusto Pinochet was considered to be one of the most brutal dictators in the history of the Western Hemisphere. He was put there by America. And you know, I remember some time ago, has anyone seen that Netflix series Breaking Bad?
Yes, sir.
And this black man, who I admire so much as an actor, but his name keeps slipping me. I think Esposito. Right, that black man. I mean, he's been in so many. He was in the first Spike Lee movies, going back to do the right thing, Bugging Out. That character. He was even in Star Wars. All right, I mean, the brother has been around. So he's what country is he from?
I think he's half Italian. Half African American, half Italian.
Oh, I thought he was Latin American. Because in Breaking Bad, his character is Chilean. And he runs this restaurant, you know, and he's trafficking drugs through the restaurant. And, you know, the police are spying on him. All kinds of equipment and everything. Cameras, hidden microphones, bugs, taps, all over. Police have him under surveillance. And then they say, aha, we got him. And they call him in for questioning. And they're telling themselves, right, after all their hard work of investigation, they finally cracked the case. And then they bring him in, and he's so cool and calm and polite. He said, how can I help you, officers? You know. and they're saying, you know, we have this information. And he's just answering all the questions. But then the final one said, you are an immigrant from Chile. But there are no records. We've checked. There are no records whatsoever under the government of Chile that you ever even existed. Say, they definitely got him now. You say you're from Chile and there's no record of you, no birth certificate, no passport, no school record, nothing. I'm thinking, how's he going to get out of this one?
Come on now.
You know what he told them? Cool as ever, come. He was like, oh, well, yes. You see, under the government of Augusto Pinochet, they destroyed so many of the records. So now, and but the thing is, the white American detectives, they couldn't argue with that because they put him there. And they know how brutal he became. So they were like, okay, you got us this time. And the man just got up, cool as up. Are there any more questions, officers? And he just went his way. But they know what they did. Augusto Pinochet was a mass murderer. But again, because there was a political regime prior to him that was not in support of America's economic interests, they got rid of him, put in Pinochet. Pinochet ran amok, raised havoc, but they have to take it. That's their doing. Nicaragua, we spoke about with the Sandinistas. Cuba, the American government intervened in the Spanish-American War where there were false flag operations, which resulted in the United States occupying Cuba after granting Cuba independence. And the United States imposed the Platt Amendment, which gave it the right to intervene in Cuban affairs and also to maintain the naval base at Guantanamo Bay. Panama is probably the only case that I know of in world history where the president of a country in December 1989 was arrested, handcuffed, put in chains, and taken to another country to be put on trial. President Manuel Noriega.
Yes, sir.
He was in his palace, and they had tanks outside the palace blasting rock music at a high volume to try to flush him out of the palace. He eventually came out. They arrested him. The government of America arrested him, took him to America for trial. They called him a drug trafficker. But all of the drugs that he was ever linked to came from the United States of America. In the Dominican Republic, United States forces occupied Santo Domingo to prevent a pro-constitutionalist rebellion from restoring the democratically elected government of Juan Bosch, which they had overthrown by a military coup 2 years later. America, responding to this one, said, we didn't actually carry out the coup, but they prevented the restoration of the democratically elected government. We saw what happened in Grenada in 1983, which is probably the closest to home case. Wherefore the Grenada Revolution, 17 government members were lined up against the wall and executed. But again, not executed by American soldiers, but executed by those who had an ideology planted in their heads to prevent the rise of a particular vision.
Yes.
In Honduras, the United States tactically supported a military coup that ousted the democratically elected president, Manuel Zelaya, who had been shifting towards closer ties with leftist governments in the region. For as long as you show any sympathy towards Cuba or Venezuela or links with China or Russia, they zoom in on you. The United States has often used economic aid, military assistance, and diplomatic pressure to influence political outcomes in Latin America. This has included funding political opposition groups, providing intelligence and training to local security forces, and leveraging international financial institutions to promote policies favorable to United States interests. This history of intervention has had a lasting impact on Latin America, contributing to political instability, civil conflict, and a deep-seated distrust of U.S. foreign policy in the region. And it brings us right back to Venezuela. And I conclude with Venezuela, neighbors to Trinidad and Tobago, neighbors to Guyana. The United States was actually one of the first nations in the world to recognize the sovereignty of Venezuela independence from Spain back in 1835. And one of the first issues, as we said earlier, was the boundary dispute, which would have been the first time that the Monroe Doctrine would have been implemented to deal with a foreign geopolitical problem. The early to the mid 20th century, Venezuela discovered massive oil reserves, which became important to American vital economic interest. Then American oil companies such as Exxon and Mobil became major investors and players in the Venezuelan economy. The United States consistently prioritized the stable flow of this strategic resource, and during that period, relations were largely friendly with America, often supporting pro-American and at times authoritarian regimes, until one man by the name of Hugo Chavez came in the 1990s. And the election of Hugo Chavez in 1998 marked a fundamental turning point. A leader that was loved, a leader that was admired, a leader that was seen to have the interests of his people at heart ahead of the interests of American economic capitalist interests. So he becomes a target. Multiple assassination attempts on Hugo Chavez and his Bolivarian revolution. Venezuela now entering under economic depression. There has been a flight of citizens over the last 10 years into Colombia, into Trinidad, into Guyana. President Hugo Chavez, not too long before he died, did a speech where he was holding a book by Noam Chomsky, and he was referring to George Bush as the devil. And he wasn't even saying it in an angry, frustrated way. He said, George Bush, yes, he's the devil. Chavez's presidency was characterized by increasingly strong anti-US rhetoric, as he frequently accused America of imperialism and seeking to control Venezuela's resources. And then there was this coup attempt in 2002, which America denied direct involvement in, but they did not condemn it, and declassified documents later revealed that the George Bush administration had prior knowledge of the plot and supported it. And then from 2013, following Chavez's death, his hand-picked successor, Nicolas Maduro, came in, and now they are referring to Nicolas Maduro as a drug trafficker. Nicolas Maduro, who has arguably the largest deposits of oil in the world. The largest. Check it out yourself. America actually said officially, this is their official position, we're not going to recognize Nicolas Maduro. And the leader of the opposition who lost the election, Juan Guaido, they said, no, he's the president.
Who are you?
That's like them coming, that's like Trump coming here last week and saying, you know what? Keith Starman? No. Where's Sister Kemi? Sister Kemi's the prime minister. Y'all know I have love for my sister, right? Okay, all right. Just don't listen to what she's saying, but we love our sister. So America recognized Juan Guaido as the official president of Venezuela, and now you're seeing these tensions taking place. Now, people are picking sides. Governments are being accused of taking one position over another. Whoever you want to support in a dispute, fine, that's your business. But we are saying you cannot jump to any conclusions or make decisions without taking into consideration the facts. And if America is calling the government of Venezuela a drug trafficking or narco state, when their history has shown that they were involved in the drug trade in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, in Nicaragua, in Chile, Guatemala, El Salvador, in Panama. And so many of these drug trafficking operations entered the streets of black communities in America that destroyed the lives of black people.
That's right.
We have to take that record into consideration, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said. Their entire history is on record. And our entire history was written in the blood that they shed, which was our people's blood, indigenous people's blood, African people's blood. But at the same time, they wrote an educational curriculum that made them the heroes. And then we read it, which means there has to be a kind of mental liberation or freedom from mental slavery that all of these educational systems have blocked and locked us in. And now more than ever before, the content of The Time and What Must Be Done, part 13, is so relevant because we've never been so dispersed before. We've never, in all of our history since the human trafficking, enslavement of the genocide of slavery, have we had so many ancestors from so many different geographical spaces and territories. We now have one family, sometimes one person with 6 or 7 black or Caribbean or African nationalities in their immediate history. We should be connected with every single one of them. There should not be any of our people that we are not in touch with. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as a leader who has global outreach, is the only black man left on planet Earth who has people under his leadership in all of these different territories across the world. We, beloved family, have the responsibility to connect with one another, network with one another, work with one another, engage in cooperative economics with each other. Because even though we are dispersed geographically, it does not change the fact that we are a nation. Alaska is geographically detached from America, but there's still one nation. You have the Virgin Islands and Tortola and the Cayman Islands, which are still part of the United Kingdom. We are all over, but we're still one people, one nation, and we have to connect with each other in spite of the barriers, obstacles, and blockades that are preventing us from connecting. And now more than ever before, it is required upon us to respond to that call, because there will never be another leader like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan again. That's not going to happen. Certainly not in our lifetime. So we have to take advantage of that interconnectivity now. There are our people everywhere, and we have to overcome the language barrier. Right here in Europe, so many of our different people speak so many different languages. But it's the same in the Caribbean. But we don't communicate with other people who speak different languages. So you have so many African people who speak Spanish in Cuba, and Dominican Republic, and Belize. So many African people who speak French in St. Lucia, in Guadeloupe, French Guyana, and Martinique. So many African people who speak Dutch in Suriname, Aruba, Curacao, the Netherlands Antilles. And so many black people, more black people, believe it or not, in the Western Hemisphere, outside of America and Canada, you have the most black people speaking Portuguese, but only in one country, which is Brazil. Our enemies don't care what their differences are. Once they can exploit us, they're uniting on the basis of that ability. We must unite with each other in spite of all of those differences that we have. Now there are apps on the phone where you can talk into it. It translates in another language in your voice.
Go ahead.
It's not just to chat up a sister or brother on the street corner and say, you want to go out this weekend? Say, no, it's for other things too. It's for business and trade as well. It's for economic empowerment too. So, beloved family, now is the time.
Yes, sir.
And under our local leadership of Brother Abdul-Hakeem Muhammad, who is also connecting with our people so far away. The last time I was in the UK, we had the 125th anniversary of Pan-Africanism. Yes. Now think, if 125 years ago, right here in the city of London, at Westminster Hall, that they could have brought delegates from 30 different countries together. Before most of us even had telephones, we were writing letters. And we brought people from all across the Caribbean, all across Africa, from Black America, into London for that first conference. And then in 1945, there was the Manchester Conference, which was called the Congress, which had at it people like the first president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, and the first president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, as well as people like W.E.B. Du Bois and George Padmore and C.L.R. James of Trinidad, who were pioneers of the idea of the Federation of the West Indies. But you had African independence and Caribbean sovereignty being discussed here in London in 1945, before even the Windrush generation. That places London, England as a center point for African empowerment thought, because here is the nucleus. And there's no other part of this planet, I believe, that you have more black people from so many different countries on earth, all in one space. Right. Beloved family, let us take advantage of that under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So, beloved family, I'd like to thank you so much. Thank you for listening. And I say, may Almighty God, Allah, continue to bless you. As I greet you in peace, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. Please welcome our beloved minister, Brother Minister Abdul-Hakeem Muhammad, up to the rostrum. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Let's stay seated, brothers and sisters. Stay standing, because we're just going to close. But just to close out one of the points that Brother David made in regards to this big march that took place a couple of weeks ago. We want to discuss it next week, inshallah, because for 110 plus thousand persons to be on the streets of London with the thought in mind that our family, as Minister David mentioned, are coming here to colonize or recolonize after they've been colonized. Think about it. The colonizers or the colonized are trying to become the colonizer. So it's almost like, we should be happy that they're thinking about us this way and appreciate their understanding of history. That's right. They knew at a certain point they would have to pay for what they've done.
Yes, sir.
So they are so spooked that regardless to what's going on, they're seeing our brothers and sisters who come over with nothing as their potential end. That's some fear, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let's thank David again. We're not going to get into another discussion. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Brother Minister David said, he just wanted you to come and visit us. I'm like, okay, brother, we got some other plans for you. Because whenever he's in the United Kingdom, isn't it a blessing for him to come and share words? Yes, so Brother Minister's always a guest of ours, but an honorable guest. That's right. Honored guest. Yes, and we enjoy you all the time, Brother David. And we are so thankful to Allah that our leader, teacher, and guide has representatives such as yourself, who can travel to any part of the world and just get into the rhythm of the people. Come on now. Because David's rhythm is our rhythm. And it's so wonderful, as he visits and travels the world. And to have such brother to call a friend, to call a colleague and a fellow traveler is a great blessing. Yes, sir. And Brother David was sharing with Brother Edwin that in 1991, he worked in the place that Edwin is doing some work. And I was saying to Brother Edwin, you're following in the footsteps of greatness. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of all the world. So it's a blessing, family. And as wonderful as we would accept the great information that was shared with us, let us not forget the homework he gave us and not forget the last part of what he said, which is to connect with our kith and kin, connect with our brothers and sisters. You were vessels here today being filled up. And you can't say your cup don't runneth over. And if your cup runneth over, you and I have a duty to have a conversation with somebody about what we heard here today. Can you pledge to do that?
Yes, sir.
Ask someone the question today. Did you know? That's how you start the conversation. With a question. Did you know? And just choose anything you heard today as the basis of the conversation. And there is nobody, dear brothers and sisters, who will deny you an intelligent conversation apart from the arrogant. Yes. And unfortunately, we have too many arrogant people in our community. But when you recognize the arrogant, do not waste time trying to teach them. Because the arrogant cannot be taught by intellectual conversation. Because the arrogant exalt themselves. And the punishment of Allah, or the teaching method that Allah uses for the arrogant, is abasement. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Because their ears are closed to right guidance. So that's why we always pray to Allah for humility. So that our ears are always open for edification and for upliftment. All right?
Yes, sir.
So go amongst your brothers and sisters who like to reason and discuss and have a reasonable conversation, and hopefully we can lift each other. So with that said, brothers and sisters, we're going to end in prayer. We have tremendous food for you at the back. And if you haven't tried Muhammad's bean soup, please try that soup. My God, Sister Dorothy. So we have this last week I took a couple with me. And by Tuesday, I was thinking, should I put in a call and ask her to do some more? We need midweek supply. And, after your bean soup, you've got some delightful bean pie to complement the bean soup. And I tell you, if you have nothing else going on, just a bowl of that soup and some whole wheat toast. Did you hear me? Did I say whole wheat toast or sourdough toast? I mean, with some low salt, if not saltless butter. You're in business, brothers and sisters. And then just a slice of bean pie. Don't be too greedy now. Just a slice. It's cool. Some of you, you put the whole thing in the oven. Then what do you expect? Because once you heat it up, you got to eat it. So just go slice by slice. And by God's grace, then that will give you the impetus to get up in the morning and go and have a workout. Yeah? But don't eat all these beans and not work out. All right? Yeah, have an early night, wake up in the morning, make your prayer. Yes? That Fajr prayer is so important that you must do everything in your power to get up. We usually get up at 5, but Fajr at the moment is just after 6, so you can have a little respite. But you must get up for that prayer. I was having a deep conversation with a brother in the week about the Fajr prayer. And one of the things we concluded on is if God gave you 5 times to pray, which one do you think you'll listen out for more? The one that you can just break off with casually as you go through the day or just before you go to bed, or the one you've got to break your sleep to make? See, that's the one he's waiting at the door for you. So with that said, let's make sure that we do our best to break our sleep. And Brother David, I was a bit negligent with my prayers in my Fajr. And it took for Terence Crawford to fight Canelo. And they were saying the fight was going to start at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I broke my sleep to watch a fight. But my self-accusing spirit beat me so much as I was getting up. He said to me, "Bro, you would get up for a fight, but wouldn't get up to worship God. You are like just so..." This is me talking to myself. I'm sharing with you my thoughts. And I said, from that Saturday, just to try and apologize to the Most High, because the fight didn't even start until after 5. So I was punished for an hour. And I mean, from that day, I've been up begging for forgiveness. Because the fight was on anyway on Netflix. It's still there. And that was Sunday morning. So praise be to Allah. At least our brother won. They're both our brothers. And it just goes to show, D, like when the brother won, he still went to the other brothers, changing there and gave him back his belt. See, that's brotherhood. That's respect. That's love. And we need more of that. And I just say to each and every one of you before you go, you know, we're watching a generation of the greatest parents that we have produced, it would seem, since our fathers were sold into slavery. And as we see our family members going into old age now, mothers, fathers, grandparents, and death seems to be all over our community. You know, let us do our best to try and spend as much time comforting our loved ones as they're in the valley of the shadow of death. You know, and also for ourselves who are still have a reasonable amount of health, do not neglect putting your financial affairs in order. Yes, sir. Because tomorrow is promised to nobody. And too many of our brothers and sisters are passing without having a will. Because we all think that we're going to the mothership and we're going to live forever and our age is going to be returned to 16. Yeah, that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate, isn't it? But there is also a however. Yeah, because there's something about us that makes us to think we're going to live forever. And don't you just love when someone says to you, "You look the same. You look so young." That's right. And that increases the myth even more. Like, you can get drunk off of that. How many people? I met a lady last week who I haven't seen for a while. She said, "Hakeem, do you just have a well of youth?" And I could get intoxicated with that. "You look the same. I haven't seen you for ages." I'm like, "But I see myself every day. Trust me. Far from the same." You know, so don't get gassed up with this. Put your affairs in order. And even if it's just a little ring you've got for this grandson, or this for that granddaughter, or this for an extended relative, or this for a friend, write it down. and make sure they get it. Yes? The only things we generally don't care about is our clothes. Anybody can take them. But you might have something in your wardrobe you want to go to someone specific. All right? So let's prepare for transition, and let's prepare others for transition, because it's happening all around us. Okay? So with that said, family, get your bean soup. Get some protein in your bodies. All right? So give Brother David, Minister David, another big round of applause. And thank you. Praise be to Allah. And anytime, Brother David, when you come, Minister David, whenever you come, if there's anything we can do, like, I remember when we were with the minister in Jamaica, one of the brothers took us to one of the schools, and many of the children didn't even have shoes on their feet. And we were able to pledge to send some books over and whatnot. And anywhere in your region, wherever there's a need like that, and anything we can do in the UK, we must put together a package and send it to our family. Because where we are going at the moment, you know, with European affairs, we need to be mindful. We need to be mindful. Because as you look at, you know, Caucasian people from the so-called far right, I wish they were far right. Far wrong. But as they come together, you know what's on my mind, D? I was just focused on these people are our children's teachers. They're nurses. They're doctors. They're lawyers. They're off-duty policemen and women. They are cooks, chefs. They work in Greg's. Are you following me? And they're your neighbors. And when I was reading the newspaper about 2 ambulance workers who have been charged with manslaughter for severely neglecting those in their charge in those ambulances. We've got to know the cry for separation is not just because we want to be in a place by ourselves, but the separation is scientifically born out of a time that we would live in, where our enemies will seek on every front to take our lives. And that's what we're being faced with today. We are so dependent upon them, and they're killing us on every front. Every front. So we got to wake up, family, like with a thorough waking. And not just be those who like the word to tickle our ear. And we come to, you know, these kind of places to hear how intelligent the speaker is. Please extract the lessons on how we can extend and strengthen our lives. Because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and the earth belongs to the righteous. So wherever the wicked is, and whenever the wicked want to rule the righteous, then we've got to have something to say about that. Is why when we first heard the voice of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, the strength and the passion that we had to do for self, don't ever let that leave you. And don't ever become an enemy to your own people's progress, where you don't support everything that your people are. Try and find a way of supporting your own. Don't walk past that which is produced by your own people. Justify supporting Satan and his wicked machinations. How dare anybody say England is white people's place? We're going to talk about it next week in Charlotte. Such a nerve. Where when our parents came here, these people were washing in the sink. Occasionally. Occasionally. We weren't in the Caribbean going to toilets in no chimney.
No, sir.
When we came here, our standard of living went down.
That's right.
And we became depressed.
That's right.
Where when Caucasian people go to our country, they're living their best life. You go to the Caribbean, Caucasians, you're living your best life. When we come to your country, we need medication.
That's right. That's right.
What Caucasian do you know to ever go to Jamaica and end up in Bellevue?
Not one. Not one.
But we end up in Maudsley coming here.
That's right.
Broadmoor.
Go ahead, please, sir.
Come on.
They got cheek, brother. And you know when someone's just rank? And you're just trying to assess the cheek of such a person? Sometimes you can't respond immediately. You gotta just like consider what to say. Because how dare you be so rude to your parents? Respect your parents. But anyway,
Yes, sir.
with that said, we're going to end in prayer.
Yes, sir.
So please assume a position of prayer you feel comfortable with. Attention prayer. In the most holy name of Almighty God Allah, who is indeed the beneficent, the most merciful, the sole master of this day of judgment and resurrection in which we now live. To thee alone, Allah, do we serve. To thee alone do we beseech for thine aid. O Allah, guide us on the straight path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed thy favors, not the path of those upon whom thy wrath has been brought down, nor of those who go astray, especially after hearing and bearing witness to clear guidance and teaching, especially coming from the one who is among us, giving us enlightenment, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and all of those who speak truth. We pray, Allah, that you will not allow our ears to move away from clear guidance, but to incline towards clear guidance so that we may be the beneficiaries of your presence and of your intervention in our affairs. Ameen. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Which simply translates to mean God is great or the greatest. So let's not get hooked up on language. God is the greatest. Yes? God is the greatest. Have a lovely Sunday, brothers and sisters. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Praise be to Allah.